Hey guys,
Hey.
welcome. It is Wrestling, Video Games, and Retro Adventures, Episode 3, third time out. Thanks, Jeff, being here again today. Oh, and look who's here.
Is Mike here?
Just on time.
Oh, Mike.
Hey guys, how you
Mr.
doing?
Mike Mullis, out and about.
Yeah, this has been one heck of a day. I ended up having to take my son to scouts. So,
Oh yeah.
so I'm out. The kids are running around, and here I am. So,
Well, that's all right. We'll
How
probably
you
be
guys
here
doing?
a little while.
Doing well.
all right.
You
So-
gonna hang around here now, or are you gonna wait to get
I'm
home
good.
later?
No, I'm good.
No, right
I'm
on.
good.
Right on. So I was just
I may
complaining to Jeff
mute-
about the day I had too.
I bet I may mute now and again just so you guys don't hear kids running around.
I hear you. Right on.
Thank you for the invite too.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime. I mean, we gotta love WrestleMania, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I
gotta
mean,
talk to you.
okay. I know. How old were you when WrestleMania 1? Do you remember WrestleMania 1 actually coming on?
Oh yeah, are you kidding? Hogan and Mr. T.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So were you right there? Were you living in that state then?
And oh yeah, no, I didn't go to WrestleMania.
No, but
I
I
was
mean,
old
where were you
enough
when
to
it was
watch
going
it.
on?
I was old enough to definitely watch it. I grew up on WWF.
Yeah.
And I had I had a friend of the family who we just loved to watch wrestling together.
Yeah.
And so when WrestleMania came around, we paid the $50 and tried to get the scrambler, a special scrambler.
Because I was just saying, it was this is all basically pre-pay-per-view.
Well, yeah. So in the old days, when I was a kid, when you wanted to get specialized stuff from, because we had Comcast back then.
Okay.
So when we had to get specialized stuff, you had to go and get a box that de-scrambled the stuff. So we didn't get a chance, for us to watch it.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it was necessarily pay-per-view in the same way you see pay-per-view now, but
Right.
you could watch it at home for a fee.
Now, did
At
you
least
have
on
a satellite
Comcast.
dish?
No, it was through Comcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've never heard of it that way before. I know the people that had the big, what were they, 8-foot
Oh
diameter,
my goodness, yeah.
12-foot
Satellite
diameter
dishes.
satellite dishes?
Yes. No,
They
we
get
actually were actually able to get it through Comcast cable, but you had to have, like I said, it was kind of like the Disney Channel too. When we got the Disney Channel, we had to get a special de-scrambler box for it. This was kind of, you basically picked it up on, any time before the pay-per-view, but you had to do it before Friday because Comcast was closed on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
Then you had to return the box the next week.
Okay, so it was something that you rented just specifically for that show.
Yes.
Wow.
And then you returned it. So the scrambling
And then you returned
technology
it.
was just for that one signal.
Yep.
Wow. Do you remember
Yeah.
anything like that, Jeff?
No, I don't think so. Well,
No.
I don't think we did. I don't think we ever paid for anything like that when I was, because I was a junior in high school when WrestleMania came on. So
I was 12.
I was what was I? Let's see. I was in grade 12. I was finishing up high school, finishing up grade 12 at that time.
Wait, I'm the young one of the group here?
you are.
Wow.
I think so. Oh yeah. Jeff and I are both born in '68, so
Wow.
we're within a
I'm
month.
5
of each
years
other.
younger than both of you.
Yeah, we're within a month of each other. So, yeah. I was gonna say,
Crazy.
but at that time, now in 1985, you see, I talk about my brother-in-law quite a bit. He actually ran the cable company on the American side here, and but that technology didn't even exist. Yes, you had scramble boxes for your basic cable channels, like you had your HBO, your Cinemax, Disney, et cetera, et cetera. Hey, Retro Bro, thanks for stopping in. We got Retro Bro in there, and Lance, of course. Lance is there, buddy. You're frozen, by the way, too. I don't know if you can see that or not, Mike. Did you know that?
I'm on 4G. I might. You know what? For the time being, let me. I'm gonna. Give me a second.
Yeah.
Let me.
All right.
Hang on. Let me just get rid of my camera here for a second.
Right on.
Might just have to do it that way.
But anyway, we never had any inkling of getting something like that. Now, I did know people who had the big satellite dishes who could get it. But those are pretty far few between. I mean, there might have been a dozen of them in the town, right? They were god-awful things, too. I mean,
Yeah.
they broke more than they. You used to have to swing them to catch different satellites for different shows, and the mechanics would break. And, I mean, it was amazing at the time, I guess, to be able to watch these different things. But it really wasn't until they got the small satellite dishes like they have with DirecTV and such today. I mean, they really weren't very good. There you are. You're back.
Oh, okay. Oh, I know why. All right, I'm going to turn off my cam for a few minutes. Just
right
it's probably bandwidth related.
Yeah. But I remember the hype. But so you. One more time, though. You did get the box, and you did see it, correct?
I watched it. I watched Hulk Hogan and Mr. T against Paul Orndorff and Roddy Piper. That was
wow.
I was all about that pay-per-view because it was. I mean, it was first off, it was Hogan.
Yeah,
it was Hulk Hogan, and when you're a kid, Hulk Hogan was everything.
Yep.
I was a fan of Roddy Piper. But
yeah.
Mr. T, I mean, the A-Team, I pity the fool. And he had, this was before, this was the first of the two pay-per-views that he was on. And I was, and of course, the other piece of it was Mr. T was, it was 3 years later, but he was coming off of being Clubber Lang in Rocky III.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Which is where he first, that's what he bloomed. I mean, he blew up with that, right?
Yeah. And so this was, this was the kind of thing that there was no missing this. There, you did whatever you mowed as many lawns as you could mow, and you told your parents, I swear, if you let me watch wrestling, I will never ask for another thing as long as I live.
Yeah. And you believed it too, even though.
And they bought it hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, and this is the way I remember it, Lance. The same way, like I remember the hype. I was in grade 12, graduating from high school, running around doing this and that, going away to university, and so that was not the peak of my WWF watching days. Plus, not to mention the fact that, frankly, it was kind of hard to watch it around here at that time. This is before the Monday Night Wars. We didn't get it up here. It was still on American channels a little bit. I had watched more WWF right up until about 1982 at that point. But you couldn't get away from the hype of Hulk Hogan and Mr. T, where they're all over TV and Saturday Night Live and every talk show going. And, man, I loved it. Don't get me wrong. I loved every bit of it. But where there was no opportunity for me to watch it. So it was years later or a couple years later before I ever got a chance to see it on Coliseum Video. Right. You could always rent those clamshell videos, which I'd love to have more of them. I got tapes, but the original clamshells are something special about those Coliseum videos, huh?
Oh man.
Yeah, I got into WWF. I grew up watching NWA, and then early 80s that was starting to die out. At the same time, we got cable, and we got WOR was one of our channels. So I started watching WWF. That was back when Bob Backlund was champion still.
Oh, wow.
And
he was the one who came out with the wheel to do push-ups, right? Was that him?
I think he did some. Yeah.
Sounds like
I remember that.
I remember
somebody used to come out. He used to come out with a hand wheel. He used to get in the ring, and I thought it was Backlund. I might be wrong. And he used to do push-ups with like a unicycle wheel or some like little wheelbarrow wheel that he used to grab. And I thought it was Backlund. I thought it was like his shtick.
Hey, Jeff. Good to see you, man. I really do think that's exactly right. I vaguely remember that because he used to do little sticks like that because he was like the Olympic champion, great American amateur wrestler, perfect condition, and that was how he won his matches, right?
Yeah.
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 But that's just it. Is I remember I watched more of Bob Backlund every Saturday on CBS here at WABI TV, Bangor, Maine. Watched WWF every friggin' week, and Bob Backlund was on it fighting and winning every week against somebody, right?
Wow.
And seeing like Dino Bravo, Tony Guerrera, Chief Jay Strongbow was big.
Oh, Jay Strongbow.
Yeah.
I love
those guys, and I don't remember Jesse. I don't remember watching Jesse. But
what, Jesse Ventura?
Yeah. But different ones I do remember, especially the Bob Backlund, I really do remember.
Yeah. I think by the time I really, really, really was into, because so in Maryland, we had the USA Network. Yeah. And so there was, I forgot what the name of the show was, but it was every Sunday. Was it's like USA's All-Star Wrestling or something like that. It was WWF All-Star Wrestling.
Right.
And then every once in a while, and I guess it was either pre or lead up to a pay-per-view on NBC, we would get Saturday night main event. And that usually was like that was where your big cards came in. And I think by that time, I can't remember if by that time Jesse Ventura was announcing or not.
He was announcing by the time Saturday main event come on.
Okay, so because he was on with Gorilla Monsoon.
And once in a while Vince McMahon. But Vince in the early days, like before the WWF, Vince McMahon, he did announcing right up through. But he was the main announcer when I watched it as a kid, like in the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, I remember that with Gorilla.
When it was Freddie Blassie and the Grand Wizard of Wrestling were the big managers and stuff like that.
Yep. Classy Freddie Blassie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I love those managers back then.
Oh, the managers were awesome.
Yeah.
Him, Mr. Fuji was one of my favorites.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a look at some of them in here tonight. I mean, I got some stuff lined up here we'll take a look at. Oh, I got to get my screen ready here, actually.
I remember
by the way, I apologize to folks. I know I'm looking at the chat, but I'm on my mobile, so I can't actually chat right now. So one is a couple people that just said, "Hey, Mike." So Lance Jennings, Retro Bro, Jeff Davis. Just want to say hi to you guys. I'm not ignoring you. I promise.
It's hard to. I say this to Jeff all the time as I'm sort of learning how to do this. You were your old hat. You've been doing it for years, but one of the most difficult things I have with it is to pay attention and have the conversation, and at the same time, sort of be aware of what's going on in the chat without.
I believe me. Even as long as I've been doing this, it's not easy.
No, for sure.
Did you guys
there's a delay in the chat too? Sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
Did you guys used to watch MTV at this period? Because I remember watching MTV and a lot of it back then. There was a lot of wrestling stuff building up to WrestleMania.
You mean back when they did music videos?
Exactly.
Yeah. Remember we discussed a little while ago the War to Settle the Score, which was a pre-WrestleMania event that was Roddy Piper and such, and I believe that's where Leilani Kai may have gotten the belt from Wendy Richter the first time. And it was hyped up a lot on MTV with Cyndi Lauper. I think it was really big at that time.
That was Wendy Richter's manager.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. But that was part of where it would have started to really grow on MTV. Okay. Lance has here at that time Jesse Ventura and Adrian Adonis were the AWA tag champs. Yeah, they were good. They were good.
Adrian Adonis was he was interesting. He was crazy too.
He always had that move when he got thrown into the corner where he flipped himself upside down.
Yeah.
At least once a match. It was hilarious.
So my most vivid memory of him, he was a little older at the time. It was in Baltimore. It was him and Hogan in a steel cage. And I don't know why. I don't know how you have the guts to get up on the top rope and then climb up to the top of the cage and think, I'm going to jump down onto Hulk Hogan and it's going to be fine. Now, obviously, because it's Hulk Hogan, Hulk rolled out of the way and Adrian just plowed into the mat. And all I could think of is, how do you not hurt? How does that not break something, even though the mat obviously has give and all, it's like a trampoline in a way. But I just remember him flying off the top of the cage. And you knew, I'm like, dude, you are going to miss. But he did it anyway. But Adonis was like that, man. He was nuts like that.
Yeah, we were just talking about, I think last show, he was killed in a car crash. He was only like 37.
I don't remember.
It was amazing how young he died.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I didn't mean to add that in already. My mistake. I'm screwing it up here. Sorry, guys. My screen is messing up here.
So yesterday I watched the entire WrestleMania again, just so I could have it fresh in my memory. There were 9 matches for WrestleMania.
Yeah, he has notes.
Look at these notes. Yeah, because we're talking about.
I think Mike's totally frozen again because I can't.
Yeah.
You know what? Hang on a second. I'm going to try. Give me a second. I'm going to try something.
Nope,
I'll be back. I'll be back in a few minutes. Few minutes.
Sounds good. Yeah, I can remember Mike's talking about the cage. Back then, they didn't use the blue. It was before the blue one. Like you've talked before about the Don Morocco, Jimmy the Superfly Stuka match, Jeff.
Oh, yeah.
That was a screen cage. It was not the blue bar cage.
No, yeah. It was that the chain link one?
The chain link one, yeah. Which I think is a lot easier for them to construct and assemble. Oh, Mike's back. There we go. There you go.
Now. Hold on.
To me every time I do it. Every time I click something, it's changing my my other screen.
Okay, am I okay now?
Well, you are frozen again, but
I am frozen.
I can hear you.
We can hear
It's
you.
going to be what it's going to be.
Yeah, as long as we can hear you, it's all right. I thought your voice had gone there too before.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, let's jump in a little bit. We'll start talking with some WrestleMania. As soon as I hit that, it did it again. Okay.
As dark as it's getting, I'm going to turn my camera off anyway. Otherwise, it's just I'm looking like the banker from Deal or No Deal.
There we go. All right. Bingo. We'll see if that works or not. So WrestleMania.
Oh my.
Yeah, remember that? It's like this is something else I've noticed now too. I've watched it recently on the WWF network as such, and it's more along the lines of the original pay-per-view feed. It's about 2.5 hours long, but that's all filler, right? One thing I remember is the old Coliseum video used to be 2 hours long. So it was really neat the first time I went and watched this on the network because all of the interviews and such were back. And I found that so interesting because just to see the different characters that I'd seen them in the ring, but didn't talk to them before the matches and stuff. I really like that.
I don't know about you guys, but I just always preferred the old WWF logo to this WWE logo they have now.
Yeah, we're just like 2 W's.
Yeah, there's just something regal and majestic about this WWF.
Yep.
You know?
I agree. Can you remember the whole period where it was get the F out?
Yep. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah.
That was sad.
Well, you know what?
Sued by WWF Worldwide.
They should have told the polar bears. Yeah, they should have told the polar bears to take a hike. Nobody. I never understood that. Nobody was how a judge could possibly say, "Well, yeah, you kind of look like you could misrepresent polar bears." Just stop. So, yeah, I don't know. I think part of it was, in my opinion, is that he didn't fight hard enough because he honestly wanted to change the name. to try to kind of change the attitude of the company, and you can't be the WWF and do the things they're doing now as WWE, honestly, because it went from wrestling to sports entertainment, and with that, there's no reason to call it. So I think there was a little bit of give up on that from Vince.
I agree. And was it not just in Britain, in the United Kingdom, that actually was an issue? If I'm not mistaken, that was where the lawsuit was lost, and they had to change their name only in the United Kingdom, but they decided to do it everywhere instead.
Yeah,
it'd be very odd, but anyway, that was where the suit was claimed, was over in the UK. So yeah, interesting. So there, Lance has a good point here right now. Why every time I click on that, it changes my picture? Every time I click on anything.
That's weird.
It's weird.
On the other screen, this is my other screen. So he sold his TBS time slot, which he had there for a few years leading up to it. Really good time slot, to the Crockett's for $1 million, and he did the biggest gamble in the world that this would work. It was huge. He would have lost everything. If that hadn't succeeded, it wouldn't have gone to the next year.
I wonder what wrestling organization would have taken over.
I don't know. If it would have been NWA, is my guess, Jeff, would have gone back to the forefront. And the big experiment to nationalize would have been over. And we still would have had territories. Right?
Yeah, we talked briefly yesterday about how I remember WWF seemed like it was so different from the NWA. Like, it was so flashy and stuff. When you watch this first WrestleMania, it's very old school. There's only two or three wrestler entrances with music.
That's right.
There's not many.
No.
Some matches start with somebody already in the ring.
Usually the jobber.
Yeah.
It was usually
not so much in this one, but somewhat in this one.
It was almost always Iron Mike Sharp that was in the ring before the other guy.
Maple Leaf Wrestling. That was in the Southern Ontario, was the big region that was Vince's feeder. Okay, like Calgary Stampede, Maple Leaf Wrestling, Atlantic Grand Prix Wrestling. Then there was the Quebec, Montreal area. Were all big feeders. And I remember watching Prime Time Wrestling, which was Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan. And it was really on USA in the late 80s. This is after the WrestleMania days, but well before Raw and such. And they almost always had matches from Maple Leaf Wrestling from Toronto, and it would always be Iron Mike Sharp. And what always struck me about it is they always had that ring that had a solid platform go straight to the back. Do you know what I'm trying to say? You've seen it in pictures before, and I'm sure, and gone, that looks really weird. But basically, the ring, you could go over top of the ropes and walk straight across, like the ring extended right to the back out of the arena. And that was always in Toronto. Anyway, that's you hear there. But if you ever get a chance to see that, Iron Mike Sharp was the big guy.
Oh, man. Iron Mike Sharp was he was underrated. He was so underrated. Yeah. He just became like the jobber's jobber, but there were times when they tried to show him off a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, the other jobbers like Barry Horowitz and what's his name? Steve Lombardi. Knuckleball Schwartz and the Brooklyn Brawler and
the Brooklyn Brawler.
Played old Steve Lombardi a lot, but he works for the company, I think, still to this day as a road agent, right?
First time I watched WWF on cable, the Moondogs were still going on. I remember they were just so crazy with the blonde hair, shirt, and the jeans. And they had that bone that was like usually ended every match.
Yeah.
I was like, what am I watching? This is so different than I'm used to. And poor Moondogs, they missed out on WrestleMania just by a few years.
Okay, I hit that and put this up, and it changed my picture over here.
I've never had that happen.
On the other screen. That is really, really weird.
It is.
I'm going to close that and close this, unshare it. And I'm just going to see what happens here again. That is really odd. Hide that. Look at that. That's staying right there this time. It's done. We'll see if that works. Maybe that little bit will work. Anyway, you got to love those two suits, especially Jesse's.
I know.
But, yeah.
Man, those two were entertaining.
Yeah. They really, I mean, well, Gorilla had a style about him.
I really like Gorilla Monsoon.
He was great.
Do you remember him wrestling?
No.
I think he stopped.
I wasn't old enough yet.
Was he in the early 70s when he stopped? Like the 1970s?
I think he might have made it almost to the 80s.
Yeah.
No, I never saw him wrestle.
The only thing I remember, and look this up sometime, is he was wrestling in a match, and for whatever reason, Muhammad Ali came in and it ended up being a boxer versus wrestler. And Ali came in with the fists up, and Gorilla Monsoon just sort of wailed him once, picked him up, put him in an airplane spin, and tossed him out of the ring. You check that out. You can see that on YouTube. Muhammad Ali and Gorilla Monsoon. Hey, DJC, how you doing, man? Nice pink suit. I know, like I know for a fact that Chuck probably has one of those suits in his closet. Wouldn't you think?
He might be pulling it out for a new.
No comment whatsoever.
I think he might be wearing that on his next top 5.
I hit it again, and it changed my picture again. That is really odd. Oh, well.
That is weird.
Popping back and forth. Yeah, you gotta love it.
You know who else was great, and he was there at WrestleMania too. One of the you had Gene Okerlund, right? You had Mean Gene. Remember Lord Alfred Hayes?
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah.
He did all the. He was set up in the hall for WrestleMania, where all the wrestlers would have to walk past him, going to the ring and coming back. So it was so awkward. It was very strange to see it.
No.
And he was very awkward all by himself too.
That's just it. That was the word right there for it. Is awkward.
Yep. And there's Howard Finkel.
Yeah.
Who to this? I mean, who would? When did he? Or is he still? I don't even. I mean. I don't watch WWE. Is he still announcing for them?
No. He passed away about a year ago.
Did he?
Yeah, just within the last year or so. He wasn't incredibly old. I think he was 69 or something like that. But he is gone. Yeah.
He was fantastic as a ring announcer.
Oh,
he was awesome.
The very best. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Now, he was in that house. Remember they had, what do they call it? Wrestler's house or something, a WWF house or something, where they had a whole bunch of them get together in a house, just sort of like Big Brother. And lived together. Yeah. Fink was in it. And tell you who else was in that house? It was Mean Gene.
Oh.
Yeah.
If Iron Sheik was there, then Gene Mean would have been there.
Gene Mean. Gene Mean.
You guys, if you don't already follow, by the way, the Iron Sheik, if you don't follow him on Twitter, you need to.
Oh, yeah, he's great. He is great.
He is hilarious.
He just turned 79, but he's doing all right?
Yeah, you're looking good.
Yeah.
Mike, did you see the documentary?
How you doing, bud?
I did not yet, but I want to.
I believe it's still free on YouTube.
Yeah?
I'm sorry, I have to.
Paper Dave here. Mike, did you watch any other wrestling groups?
Well, not currently, but I was a big during the Monday Night Wars. I was Team WCW all the way. Like I was heavy WCW. And because at that point I really started to dislike the WWE or WWF. I did try for a while to watch TNA. And I mean, they just were horrible. So I haven't been, I know I know AEW is getting big right now, and I watch a scant here and there, but my days were really back in the 90s, early 2000s during the Monday Night Wars.
And I watched TNA when it first came out. Like I watched it up through to the demise of WCW, and I thought that they blew it so bad with the WCW angle just by being selfish, in my mind. But how could they screw up the possibilities of that whole angle? How they could screw it up as bad as they did, and take it from really looking forward to it to every week after week going, okay, well, they're not really doing anything with the WCW guys, so they throw like somebody from WWF onto their side. Then all of a sudden, the McMahon was on both sides. It was like,
yeah. And I mean, I used to watch with a group, and we knew at the time that Vince, had purchased the WCW, and it was crazy to see the little, the hold on one sec. Seth, did you get your book signed off? Hang on one sec. Did you get your book?
That was 20 years ago. Last Friday. Yes, last Friday. 20 years ago, last Friday.
Did you get stuff signed off in your book today?
That Vince McMahon bought out WCW, and they had that last episode of Nitro and Raw on its simulcast.
And Nitro was in Panama City.
Yeah.
And I will never forget that last segment when Shane McMahon came out on Nitro, and we went nuts.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We went nuts because they have distinctive music too.
Sure.
Seth, hold on, Seth.
Yeah.
Because there's a second. Hold on. I'm sorry. Give me 1 sec.
Yeah.
So Pete, NXT is on the WWE network on Peacock.
Yes.
Is there any other like offshoots on there?
Say that again. What is it?
NXT is on WWE network on Peacock.
Right.
Is there anything else that's not WWE?
Well, NXT is WWE. It's just their younger stars, right?
Okay. Sorry.
No problem. So, Capers, hard to believe it's 20 years. Oh, and now
I know.
As long as I don't maximize it, the picture stays up, so I'll leave it like this.
Mean Gene had a chain of fast food burger restaurants?
Wow.
Huh.
That's pretty cool, Lance. Well, you would know about the Sprint drivers, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So it was just like, so getting back to that last Nitro,
yes.
When Shane came out and you heard he had that distinctive music, right? The money, because Vince at the time changed over to No Champs. So that was his theme. So you heard Shane's music come out, and like Tony Schiavone was like, "What the hell is that?" And he comes out, and you're like, "Well, what the heck is this?" And then he makes the announcement that he undersigned the contract to buy the company, and he was going to kick his dad's ass. And I mean, we just went berserk.
For
like,
sure.
Oh my God, this is going to be something special. They're going to, they'll, maybe SmackDown goes away and Nitro takes over for SmackDown, and we're going to have this big war.
That's right.
Booker T was going in with the strap because he, because you remember he beat.
He just won it. Who was it?
He had just beaten Scott Steiner for it.
Right. Yeah. And then, of course, it finished off with Sting and Ric Flair. All the stars were there. It's like making it sound like they're all going to be going against Raw next week.
Yeah. And then it just, they fired half the crew and buried everybody else.
But all these contracts, Turner Broadcasting still had to pay all the people. So they said, why would I go wrestle for Vince McMahon to make maybe less money than what I'm making by sitting home?
Right.
So, yeah, it was too bad.
I know. I was very disappointed.
They said that he bought it for $4.2 million, and 6 months earlier they had it on the auction block trying to sell it for $420 million. That's how much it faded.
Yeah, it's because Turner destroyed it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's see. Let me go back to the other one here. All right, so we're at Mean Gene, and what were you open up you. There we go. So you were mentioning this guy earlier on. Of course, we got him here too. Lord Alfred Hayes was there right in the where they all had to go in and out by him. It was sort of funny because Jeff said the magic word of the day for Lord Alfred Hayes, and man, it was awkward.
Does anyone look more awkward than him?
Sounded like, oh my God, it's just whatever.
Where did he come from?
He was a wrestler at one time.
He was.
He was a wrestler, yes, and he just was like Vince McMahon's Ed McMahon, like we were talking about the other day on Tuesday Night Titans, and he must have just been good buddies because Vince is like that, right?
They had to have been good buddies because he was not great.
No, but when Vince McMahon had loyalty to somebody, he had loyalty to them if it was reciprocal, right? Look at Pat Patterson. Not that they only had the job because they were buddies, because I thought Pat Patterson was a friggin'. But everything you see about Pat Patterson was how smart he was in the wrestling business. But Jerry Briscoe, Tony Guerrera, all these guys aren't there for just because they're former wrestlers. Are obviously good friends and loyal to Vince, and Vince is loyal to them too. And if people aren't loyal to him, he's not either. So. Hey, it's Luke. How you doing, buddy? Going back through. Luke's been there for a bit. Love TNA. Yeah, TNA. TNA, though, I can remember watching that when it first went up. Total nonstop action.
Yeah.
It was a weekly pay-per-view for $10 every Wednesday night. And it was a 2-hour show. I had one of those dishes. I have downstairs in a box, a banker's box, like videotape, probably 100 videotapes of all the shows. So I've lost everybody here now. Jeff's just kicked out again.
Oh no!
He did that earlier before we started.
I had high hopes for TNA because it was Jeff Jarrett. And
absolutely.
Jeff, say what you want. Say what you want about some of the things that he's done from a career perspective. Number one, he was one hell of a talent. Number two, he had some mic skills that are hard to replicate.
No, you're absolutely right.
And it didn't hurt that he was part of the Four Horsemen.
No.
So,
which one was it? Who are you saying?
Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah. Well, what was he in the Four Horsemen? I don't remember that.
WCW time. So he joined the Horsemen. Let me see if I can look up the dates. He was when Ric Flair and Arn Anderson and Jim Neidhart went to WCW.
Okay.
They brought him in. I'm looking it up. They brought him in as he joined the Four Horsemen. Hold on.
We were talking about this the other day too, Jeff. You still there, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm here. You hear me?
Okay, this is how Caper Days bringing up how the fans and even the ring attendants and such were so close to the ring itself back in this day. When you watch it, they're right on top of it, right?
Yeah, it looks like they're almost right up against the ring. It's so strange.
Yeah, in some cases they are. There's one scene which I actually tried to find a picture of, and we go ahead a little bit. I tried to find a scene in this match here where the executioner gets thrown over the top rope because right down in a chair that was at the timekeeper's desk.
Thrown over the top rope and just fell right into a chair, and he was just sitting there.
Exactly.
Here we go. So he was. Here we go. So in 1996, when Jarrett got into WCW, he signed a 1-year contract. He got in the middle of the rivalry between the Horsemen and the NWO. So he beat Chris Benoit at Starrcade. and then Steve McMichael by cheating, and so Jarrett was reluctantly inducted into the Four Horsemen.
Okay.
So he was kicked out in mid '97 and began feuding with Steve McMichael. So it was McMichael that it was. Now I remember. It was Ric Flair. It was Arn Anderson.
Yeah.
Steve McMichael and
Tully Blanchard
and Jeff Jarrett, and that was
Jarrett.
those were the active wrestling horsemen.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so we got the first match.
All right, you get your signage.
The very first match: Tito Santana versus the Executioner. And you remember who the Executioner was, Jeff?
Sure do. Buddy Rose.
Buddy Rose, Playboy Buddy Rose, and you can see it in his face there. Like if you see them in other matches, I remember him. I remember seeing him, but it's kind of neat to think that this is the very first ever match in WrestleMania. But it's good to see that Tito sort of won it because you gotta love. I'm sorry, you gotta love Tito Santana.
He won it with the figure 4 leg lock too.
Yeah. Poor man's honky tonk by smashing people with guitars. Yeah, really.
So was Buddy Rose almost done with his career at this point?
I don't think so. I think he just wasn't all that big, and this was his way to sort of step in. And Tito, it's the very first time I remember him using that flying forearm, though, too, which was his big move.
Oh, yeah. That knocked him silly.
Yeah. This is after Buddy went over the top rope, landed the chair. There's the figure 4 there.
I think it's funny, the chair thing. I mean, there's no way that's planned. It'd be impossible.
You're right. Exactly right. Yeah.
No, because chairs back then got you disqualified.
Oh, yeah. But this was just the chair was sitting there by the timekeeper's bench. And it just happened to flip over the top rope, right down, ass first, landed in it.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. I wish I'd have found that clip, but I was thinking it was a different match. But it was this match right here.
Oh, yeah.
Because he literally comes right down, just sitting there like this, and it's like, huh. Gets up, gets back in the ring. But I mean, and you know, he was sitting in the chair, and there's 3 other guys sitting at the same table, like looking at him, going, "What are you doing?" This might be my favorite match of the entire pay-per-view right here.
Yes.
Philadelphia's own Special Delivery Jones versus
Delivery Jones.
King Kong Bundy.
Fastest match until The Rock and crud. Some years later.
Santino? Was it Santino?
Maybe.
Oh, double up. Oh, I can't go past that quick. There's Special Delivery right there. This is what I mean. It was kind of neat because on the Coliseum video, they don't bother to show a Special Delivery Jones interview. But now with this unedited like that, they show everything. It's there. It's really great to watch.
And how funny is it that, you know, when S.T. Jones is talking here, King Kong Bundy is like 2 feet away and vice versa.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it was so because Gene Okerlund would just turn. He wouldn't even move. His feet would just turn like this, and the wrestler was there. It's like,
boom, turn around the other direction.
Well, because now every time the 2 wrestlers are in the same room with each other, it's like automatic. They have to start brawling and throwing each other around. They can't, it was like in these days, they would literally interview the guys right next to each other. Sometimes right, like as Jones would walk off, King Kong Bundy would walk right behind him.
Yeah.
You know?
But that is a mountain of a man.
Yeah, it is.
And
there weren't many like him.
Is he dead now, Bundy?
Bundy is, yeah.
Yeah.
About 3 years ago now, 3 or 4. Chris Pie, I don't know how you pronounce his last name. It was Pailles, Pius or Paley's, or I don't know how they pronounce it. I remember vaguely that Antigua gimmick as well, Lance. Vaguely. But I mean, here he's billed from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
It's all a ruse.
No, none of it's a ruse. It's all real.
It's all real.
What do you mean? What do you mean wrestling's fake?
That's not fake right there, let me tell you.
No, that is not.
Oh,
I don't care who you are.
The worst part about it is that doesn't look half as bad as that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see it, but
Mike, I was talking to Pete yesterday. I had heard that. So when this match happened, Jones runs at Bundy. Bundy just grabs him, slams him into the ring or into the turnbuckle, and then Jones kind of just falls down. And Bundy's got to go back and
then do the avalanche.
Yeah, and smash him again, and then he falls over into this position where we see now. And they were saying it was 9 seconds, but it was clearly like closer to 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And I had heard that this whole thing was a mistake, that as soon as Jones hit the turnbuckle the first time, he was supposed to fall down basically to where he is now, and then Bundy was just going to avalanche him and end it in pretty much 9 seconds. So I think the whole thing was kind of set up, and Jones kind of messed it up. I guess he was probably really crushed in that corner.
Yeah. You know,
how could that crush you?
Oh.
But it's still classic. And listen, I'm sorry, I love King Kong Bundy. I mean, we're not talking about WrestleMania 3 today, but you gotta love the squashing of the beaver.
Poor little guy. But as soon as Bundy won, remember when Bundy won? Jimmy Hart comes running in and he jumps towards Bundy. Bundy just grabs him like with one arm and kind of sets him up here like a parrot. Hart was all excited.
Really. Oh man!
From parts unknown is pure wrestling. Yeah, you're not kidding.
Yeah.
Bundy was never parts unknown. I don't think that's what Lance is saying here either.
No.
King Kong Bundy was from Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Yep.
So that was always awesome because there's a guy parts unknown coming up who actually later on.
The guy who I always thought should have been from parts unknown was George the Animal Steel.
Yeah, where was he billed from? You've been watching his matches, trying to find.
He was from Detroit.
Detroit, is that right?
I'm pretty sure because he was from that area. I think that's where he's billed from. But you'd think of all guys.
Didn't have a kid named Chuck, did he?
Chuck,
Chuck, your last name Steele? Chuck Steele. But Jeff is on a quest, okay? If anybody in the chat can help Jeff with his quest, the quest is to find a match. Go ahead, Jeff. You tell the story.
Has anyone ever seen George the Animal Steel pin anybody or even attempt to pin anyone? I've been watching all kind of his matches lately, and I haven't seen one time there's even attempted to pin anyone. And it makes sense with his persona that he wouldn't even bother. Completely makes sense, but I just don't think he would, at least not when he was the Animal. I don't think he's ever, because he used to have that hammer lock, that like flying hammer, like he'd hold the guy up by his arm.
Yeah.
And they give up, and that's the only way I've ever seen him.
It was his submission move.
Yeah.
When he didn't get disqualified for the turnbuckle. he passed away. He passed away not too long ago either. 2017.
Yes, yeah, recently.
Yeah.
Not long ago at all.
I have a feeling he probably lost more than he won.
Oh, look at this. This is Chuck.
You'd have to be
he grew his own cardigan sweater.
You'd have to shave every 6 hours, Chuck, if you look like George Steele.
Yeah,
he took his shirt off, and it looked like he had a sweater on.
Yeah. Now George didn't he, Lance? Do you remember? He was a big rival of the Bruno Sammartino day, right? They had a big rivalry, or had just a program against each other where he was the big super heel coming in. I mean, obviously he never won because Sammartino was he was champion for 8 years and then lost it to Ivan Koloff, and then 6 more years, I think, after that, wasn't he? Something like that. So,
well, you remember who his manager was, right?
George Animal Steel?
Yeah.
It was Lou Albano at one time.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That's back when Captain Lou was always a bad guy until he got mixed up with Cyndi Lauper.
Because you never wanted him to be, because he was so goofy.
Yeah.
I mean, and then I remember, when was it? It wasn't long after that. He got into this big feud with Randy Savage.
Yeah. Over Elizabeth and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, he was in love with Elizabeth.
Yeah.
It was the greatest thing.
And that was up through the WrestleMania 2 and WrestleMania 3 days.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. So the next match is sort of weird. This is Ricky Steamboat's very first introduction. And he wrestles a guy with maybe a lot of people don't know of as Matt Bourne. He was Matt Osborne. He's passed away now too. But Matt Bourne was a good wrestler. He did a good job in this one, really. Again, watching it back 20 years ago until like I saw this for the very first time on the network where I saw it unedited. I didn't see any of these interviews with these guys. So it was kind of neat to see him. Because do you remember who I said he was, Jeff?
Doink the Clown, the first.
This is the original Doink the Clown.
Really?
10 years later. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Well, when Doink the Clown was at WrestleMania 9, this is WrestleMania 1, and Doink appeared, I believe, between 8 and 9 is where he made his first appearance.
I had no idea that was Doink the Clown.
Yeah. So, little things.
Was Matt Bourne in any of the WrestleManias between 1 and his Doink appearance?
I do not believe so.
Is that some kind of a record for longest time between WrestleManias? Because that's kind of weird.
I don't know. I'm not sure of that.
Called the Dragon. Great.
Ninja gimmick. This, yeah, I remember the ninja gimmick with Ricky. Was at the end, and it was a bit much. But here he's just starting because he's not the Dragon. He's just Ricky Steamboat.
I know.
You know. But he was good. I mean, he was just a kid, wrestler, good athlete, strong. And so was Matt Bourne, really. Clip on you. Oh, here you go, Jeff. It might be it.
By submission.
By submission. So that doesn't count.
That doesn't count.
We want to see. Hey, Ross. We want to see a clip of George the Animal.
I'm going to be here in electrical. Okay.
I want to just see him attempting a pin. I've never even seen him attempt a pin.
Yeah, there you go. He doesn't even know what a pin is. Hey, it's Pete. My third favorite Pete. Oh, I'm down to third.
Oh, wow. Pete's been OEB. He's been salty these past couple weeks.
That's a good word for it. Salty.
He's been a little salty lately.
Ross of the house, right on. That's cool. There's Ricky. Tell us a story like you said it the other day, Jeff. Oh my God, it's hilarious.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, Matt Bourne's on the ground when Steamboat's starting to climb up, and he gets up and he turns around, and Steamboat is just standing there like this, and then Matt Bourne just starts like kind of backing off, and he's just waving his arms like a crazy person, just waiting for Steamboat to run into him.
Right.
It's like instead of waving your arms, just step 1 foot away, and Steamboat's over.
That was the love of wrestling, right? You see all these people. I'm going to go to the local matches here, Atlanta Grand Prix Wrestling, and it was more fun to watch the people who were right into it sitting up front. Some of them just so boisterous, right? You know, like
the
heel would have the the shoehorn or something out in his back pants. He turned it away from the referee. Then he pull it out and stab the guy in the throat with it. And there'd be people in the front row, second row, stay right up, hold the referee like, hey, he's got something there. He's got a foreign object. They're getting right into it. Oh, my God. It was more entertaining watching the people get all worked up over it all than anything the wrestlers ever did. Oh, my God. It's so funny.
I love this picture because you can kind of see what Matt Bourne's doing. You can see his hands all blurry because he's doing one of these things. Whoa.
He's doing the big swimmer. Trying to swim away. Didn't make it. And, of course, the Dragon wins the match.
Yep.
So next up, this is one we were talking about, parts unknown. That's the Brutus Beefcake here.
That's right.
He
was announced.
Parts unknown in this one, right?
He doesn't look like a parts unknown kind of guy.
No, not at all. I don't think they knew what the hell to do with him. He's Hulk Hogan's buddy, and they brought him in, and I don't know because.
Oh, were they friends before he got into WWE?
I thought they were related.
I don't know if they are related.
I heard that too. I heard that too. They're related.
Are they? Well, they are definitely close anyway. And
I don't know if it's true. That's what I heard.
Yeah, I'd heard. I it might be wrong, but
his name is Ed Leslie. His real name is Ed Leslie, and he's just followed Hulk around his whole career. You know, basically they're just friends. Yeah, and David Sammartino just didn't cut it for me. Really, this wasn't a great match in my mind.
To me, he's like Chris and Mike Von Erich. You know, he comes from a great wrestling family, but man, he just didn't have it.
Yeah.
He was, I don't know, he doesn't seem as small there next to his dad, but he just looks really short and he's got the muscles, but he's also kind of heavy. He's a little pudgy.
Well, it's like Mean Gene slouching not to be taller than him. Johnny Valiant was good. He was entertaining. Of course, they were big wrestlers. He was a good wrestler back in his day as well. Way back when. But it's funny in this one, Jeff, how he says he's not going to be talking. I'll do all the talking for him, because this is how when they brought in new wrestlers who didn't have the mic skills yet, they would give them a manager and let the manager do all the talking to pump them up.
Beefcake, didn't he like make a noise and Failing told him to shut up?
Basically, yeah.
It was so weird because I'm used to seeing him as a talker. And
he gets to be better. He was never really a great one, but he was definitely capable, especially when once he got the barber gimmick, right? Well, anyway, this is the very beginning. I do remember watching. There's a series of tapes on Coliseum Video called the Hulkamania 2, Hulkamania 3, and it was Hulkamania 2, and it's all matches with the Hulk fighting all the different people from Kamala and Savage and things that you've never seen, not mainstream matches, but like house shows. Like it was a great one, Savage versus Hogan and Boston Garden, stuff like that. Anyway, there's one there where he fights Brutus Beefcake, and it was all right, anything at that time. It was all about hype. It wasn't about technical wrestling skills, and they did do a good job, but it would be far removed from this appearance right here. They were always looking for somebody for Hogan to fight, right? So there they all are in the ring, and of course Bruno was amazing.
He was the best part of this match.
Absolutely. Banging around. Even Brutus was never a technical wrestler. I mean, never at all. This is the end of it, where it ended up as a double disqualification, right, Jeff?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
No. Wait a minute.
I think it was a double disqualification.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and because they all sort of get into it, and then
Bruno came in, then Bruno came in, and it was a double. But Bruno Sammartino looked like he could have just beaten everyone in that ring. Yeah.
As soon as he decided to, he would just end it. Yeah. So then we start getting into the matches that are a little bit more top dog. This is listen, I just saw Caper. I just saw this comment on Jim Cornette's podcast. He addressed that. It's just a rumor about Hulk and Beefcake being related. So, and if they were related, I would be surprised. I'm not saying that they couldn't be, but I would have been surprised if they actually were. Right on. Thank you, Caper. Appreciate it.
Boy, next you're going to tell me that the Undertaker and what's his name? Kane aren't related. They're not brothers. Come on.
They're not. They're brothers, man. Oh, yeah, they're brothers.
Sure. Whatever you want.
Undertaker and Isaac Yankem, DDS, and the new Diesel. So Junkyard Dog was probably, and who was it mentioned earlier? I think it was Lance in here saying about how Superfly and Sergeant Slaughter were probably at one point more bigger names than Hogan in WWF. But I don't know why Superfly didn't fight in this one. I think he might have been coming off an injury, but they just wanted him to make an appearance. And I never really understood. I think Slaughter must have left by then. Did he? What's up? Why is Slaughter not here?
I don't think he was in WrestleMania 1. I don't think he came. He wrestled in. Was I
Seven. He
was
came
he
back.
in WrestleMania 2?
No, he is
No?
not. And he's not in 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. He doesn't come back till 7. And that's what freaked me out. It's so weird. Is that I think, but Slaughter was a big name. Like you're talking the top dogs in WWF. Sergeant Slaughter was one of them with Superfly and with Hogan. But it must have been just before '85, and he had left for whatever reason. Because he's not in any WrestleMania until he does the bad guy gimmick and turns against the country, and he fights Hogan in WrestleMania 7 in Anaheim. So, could I be wrong? Yeah, but I don't think I am. I think that's.
Oh well, you know what? I think part of the reason is, at least from what I see here, he was only in the WWF for a year before going to NWA.
Okay, there you go.
And then he came back to WWF in '83. Over here, buddy.
Well, '83, yeah, but this is '85.
Well, I know.
But he's not, and maybe he was hurt
well,
too.
in '85, he went to the AWA.
Oh, well, there you go. So he left.
He was in AWA until 1990.
Yeah.
Then he came back. He came back in 1990, and he did that. Remember that stupid? He was with the Sheik. Yeah.
With General Adnan and the Iron Sheik.
Yep.
Yeah, and that was the headliner for WrestleMania. He won the championship as that.
Yeah.
And that was the headline for WrestleMania 7.
I loved Slaughter. Man, he was awesome. He was great.
And he was another guy who ended up working for Vince McMahon for decades.
And he still does.
Does he still, or is he retired?
Yep, he's part of their he calls it the ambassador program.
Okay, yeah. Robert Remus is his name. Yeah. Well, that's really cool though. He's pretty visible. I think he's visible to people, meet and greets and stuff like that too, which is
all the wrestlers that picked a great name. Sergeant Slaughter.
Sergeant Slaughter. And then he was G.I. Joe. Like he was a character in G.I. Joe.
Oh, he was.
When they had the 3.5 or 4 inch figures.
Yeah.
Post when I was a kid, their G.I. Joes were like 8 or 9 inch figures. And then they
had the little fuzzy head too.
Yeah.
Hair.
Yeah.
Yep. I had one of those.
And the fuzzy beard too, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So this is 2 wrestlers though I really do love. Greg the Hammer Valentine. I always loved him. I remember him. And he did the figure 4 leg lock. Of course, he had won the Intercontinental Championship from Tito Santana with the figure 4 leg lock before this. That was Tito was going on and how he was learning to use the figure 4, which is why he won his match with the figure 4 at the beginning. And you go way back, and I still remember it clearly, like I'm talking 81 or 80, when he came in, Greg the Hammer, and he was untouchable. Nobody could beat him. Hogan came in at the same time. They both had Freddie Blassie for managers. Actually, he might have had the Grand Wizard. But anyway, they come in as big super bad guys. It was a figure 4 leg lock, and Greg the Hammer put Chief Jay Strongbow in the hospital with a figure 4 leg lock. And it was the big story that he took out. I mean, how could you take out Chief Joe Strongbow? Everybody loved him. And he put him in the hospital with the figure 4 leg lock. Broke his legs all up. So he's still wrestling to this day, Greg the Hammer.
He also, again, you're right. I mean, also one of my favorites.
What's you think of JYD, Mike?
Huh?
What did you think of JYD?
Oh man, he was a character. It's 9 o'clock. We're going home.
Charismatic, eh?
Yes, very much so. And I mean, I don't remember necessarily the most agile or come on, but you know, from a wrestling standpoint, certainly not the most technical guy, but he made up for it in charisma.
Is this the next? No, they're getting ready for the belt here, and this is the move that I always see that he always did. Like some of the things you just shake your head where they always
right. What?
Triple charge to the headbutt like a dog.
Yep.
Every friggin' match.
And back then it worked.
Absolutely. Oh, people loved it. And for some reason, his opponents always get up the exact same way and let him go. You know, hey,
let him do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Iron Sheik was also huge before Hogan, but Iron Sheik deserves a lot of credit that, well, I think he gets it to a degree now, but he didn't for many years. If it wasn't for the Iron Sheik, Hogan wouldn't be nearly as big as he is now.
No, you are right.
Because that gave him the heel is like a trampoline for the face.
Well, and not
the heel, the bigger the feet for the heel, the more it propels the face.
And not just any heel. I mean, remember, you're talking about the 80s. You're talking about the Cold War. You're talking about Iran. You were talking about, a time when that you could not hate the Sheik any more than you could hate anybody on the planet.
That's right.
Because this was less than 5 years from the Iranian hostage crisis.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely.
Maybe probably about 3 years or so when he – was it 3 or 4 years after that he won the championship?
Who?
Sheik.
He won it in 83.
83, yeah. So that's only 3 years later.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look at
the perfect bad guy.
WWF has never been afraid to go down some paths that were sort of in poor taste. Look at oh my God, what was it, Muhammad Hussein or whatever his name when they did that? Mm-hmm. I mean, kind of crazy.
Please remove your card.
Well, but it wasn't that. It wasn't just that though, too. I mean, it was at the Home Depot. It was that, and him and Nikolai Volkov.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that was the double whammy of bad guys.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Well, we're coming up to them here too in a minute, so
yeah.
Let's
because I remember that match.
Coming. JYD, is though he was huge, he was a big face. He's probably, in my mind, the second biggest face in the company next to Hogan at this point. He got such an ovation. But this match was it was what it was. Like, he moves and hits Hart. And then, of course, Valentine gets the pin on the ropes, which how many times have we seen that in wrestling, right? All the time. Oh, the bad guy won by cheating. But this is the only friggin' time I ever remember somebody coming in the back and changing the referee's decision.
Well, it was Santana that came out, right?
Yes.
Talked to the ref, and then the ref changed which I'm not sure how you change your mind on that when you didn't see it. That was very weird.
It was.
But yeah, so Valentine wins, then he gets taken away. The ref said, the match continues, and Valentine just walked away, so he got counted out.
Yeah.
That was a weird thing. The match was actually continuing, and he just left.
Like, because I don't know if you realize the fact, but the big thing leading up to it, the big thing that was happening before this match took place was that Valentine had taken the belt, the Intercontinental belt, from Tito Santana, which is why it was Tito Santana that ran out and told the ref. But doesn't matter who it is. It's like, how many times you say, why don't they just do that every time that they cheat, right? That would not go over very well. Sort of make it nobody would care.
It was funny because after the pin, the ref gets up and you see the second rope's doing like this. It's like, why is that rope wiggling around so much?
I mean, I'm gonna back it up too because, you couldn't get 2 feet on the rope any better than that. That is perfectly done right there. That is picture perfect. Even the referee is in the absolute best position not to see it.
Right.
By the way, Valentine did his great move where he gets hit in the head and he just goes.
Right.
He just falls flat on his face, stiff as a board.
So this is a big one. Nikolai and the Sheik.
Yep, against what were they back then? I always speak.
They were just Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda.
Yeah, Rock and Wrestling.
Is that right?
Is that Rock and Wrestling, or were they the?
I'm not sure.
I just think they were Windham and Rotunda.
I thought they were a team by then. I could be wrong.
I don't know. They didn't really say that anywhere in this pay-per-view that I heard, that I remember.
Well, yeah, they were team because they were the tag team champions during this match.
Yeah,
they were, but they didn't give them a name. They didn't have a name for them.
The U.S. Express. That's what they were called. The U.S. Express.
U.S. Express. There you go.
Yeah, that's what they were called.
But man, those two are fabulous right there. Freddie Blassie doesn't get any better than Freddie Blassie.
No.
I gotta sit down. I've watched the first half hour, but a couple times and never made it the whole way through. Is My Breakfast with Blassie by Andy Kaufman. Have you ever watched it?
My Breakfast with Blassie?
My Breakfast with Blassie. And it's Andy Kaufman went to breakfast with Freddie Blassie. It's a 90-minute movie. It's just them sitting there having breakfast in L.A.
All right, I got to watch that. That's crazy.
Exactly. And that's about it, too. The stuff they talk about between, well, how much more of two characters can you get than Freddie Blassie and Andy Kaufman? I mean, Freddie Blassie in Japan filed his teeth to point so he'd look mean. And then he'd bleed them, make them bleed, right? Oh, yeah. Yeah. And Nikolai was, both these guys, the Sheik's the Sheik. He's very opinionated, but he was quite an athlete, let me tell you. And Nikolai Volkov, for all intents and purposes, was pretty awesome with the fans, eh?
So I'm going to give you a little fun trivia about Nikolai Volkov.
Sure.
So, well, we all know. I mean, he was born in Croatia.
Yeah.
He lived in Maryland.
Yeah.
So, my buddy, who I watch wrestling with all the time, he worked for Mars Supermarkets. Said he'd see Nikolai come in every couple weeks doing shopping. I mean, he was out and about. He was he became a Marylander. I think he was here till he died. I mean, he died. Another one died only a couple years ago.
Yes, and he was in Maryland when he died. Yep.
Yep. Glenarm. I mean, it was kind of surreal because we'd see him all the time, or I wouldn't, but my friend would. He'd see him all the time.
Yeah. Huh. So interesting. He was just recently in a movie I posted there about the Russell Massacre. It stars Richie Acevedo, who is actually the Cuban Assassin, the original Cuban Assassin son. He went by Cuban Assassin in indie circuits all around the States. And he has a movie out. He's got a new movie out right now, which I can't think of the title of it right off the get-go. But he has a movie that's available for free on Tubi called Wrestle Massacre. And Nikolai Volkov has a scene in it where he actually plays Richie's father. And it's kind of neat, It's about 4 or 5 years ago, not long before he passed away, that he did this clip. It's very neat to see. We're talking about maybe I might hit Richie up to come on sometime, talk about some Atlanta Grand Prix wrestling sometime. Whoa, there's some sound.
Sorry.
Don't worry about it.
Now I'm driving home.
That's all right.
No.
Captain Lou does not look like Captain Lou in this picture.
He looks like he's going on vacation.
Yeah.
Really.
He's very casual.
Where did the Hawaiian shirt come from, I wonder?
I don't know.
I thought he was already in full Captain Lou Albano mode by this one because he was in the music video with Cyndi Lauper.
Yep, he was in Girls.
The music video, he had the big hair and the like Hawaiian shirt. I guess
it already happened.
Looks like he just got a haircut right before WrestleMania.
Exactly. But
and what was the deal with the rubber bands on the face? What's that, Pete?
I said Wyndham and Rotunda were good wrestlers too.
Yeah, Wyndham was a big boy. Go back
yeah.
to that. Can you go back to that picture? And look how he's the biggest. He's the biggest one in the room.
Yep. Guaranteed. He's a Blackjack Mulligan's his father, correct?
Yep.
Really?
I think so.
Yeah.
He had a massive chest. Wyndham.
Yeah. He sort of had a weird career. He was always good, but he never really seemed to break through.
Yeah.
These two guys, even though they're young, they're kind of a dying breed at this point, where they're more actual wrestlers. Because like wrestling today, I was watching some on WWE Network, some new stuff, and it's like I didn't see a single wrestling move at all.
No, it's that's why they call it sports entertainment, because it's not wrestling.
No, not anymore.
You could at least throw in an occasional move here and there, but it's like nothing.
I don't think I don't think many of the new wrestlers could hang with these guys in their prime. You think anybody today, honestly, anybody today would have been able to take on a King Kong Bundy or a Big John Studd or somebody like that, or a Snuka in his prime? No.
I don't think the toughness is there. I don't think the toughness is there, Mike, like you're saying, right? I think these guys would put them in one arm lock and they'd be done.
Yeah.
I mean, not that an arm lock or a hammer lock or whatever. I mean, in wrestling, professional wrestling, they flip-flop back and forth. They break the holds, blah, 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 blah. Whereas reality is if you get in one, you're done for the most part.
Right.
But these guys nowadays wouldn't be doing that stuff as much as it's acrobatics.
Yeah, they would just be hopping around the ring.
Yeah.
But I think they come from different. See, I think they come from different backgrounds now. I mean, if you really think about it, most wrestlers were, former football players, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ric Flair was, Steve McMichael was, Goldberg was.
So was The Rock.
The Rock, were these, so they were used to hitting each other. They were used to physical contact. And now it seems like wrestlers just come out of a wrestling school, and that's all they know how to do is just kind of they fly. It's almost like how football as a sport has become more offensive minded, so that it's more appealing to people.
That's right.
That's what's happened to wrestling. Is it's more about the flash and the how far you could fly across the ring, rather than can you wear your opponent down? Can you actually beat your opponent?
It's all flair and acting now.
I think a lot of that, McMahon got rid of, because some of the old stuff was a little boring. Like you put a guy in a headlock and he'd be they'd both be laying on the mat, for 5 minutes straight. It's like that's not the most exciting thing in the world. And I think McMahon decided to get rid of some of that nonsense and just have it like all action all the time.
No, I agree.
For better or worse.
Yeah.
Like Lance mentioned here in the chat, some of those old NWA matches, they would always be like the big matches would be 60 minutes long.
You're right, right there. We'll talk about Barry Windham going for 60 minutes with Ric Flair. And those were entertaining matches, though, because they were a story. They were very well paced, right?
Yes. And if you could pace a match correctly, well, remember, too, most back then had time limits.
Yes.
So you had the potential. You always had the potential in the back of your mind of a draw, and that, who was going to get that last, who was going to get that last minute move to win under the time limit. I mean, there was intrigue. There was, these guys were big brawlers and stuff, and some of them weren't. I mean, you don't have a lot of technical that you have now, but you didn't need it back then. These guys beat they hammered on each other until one of them was able to hit somebody with the right move.
Yeah,
I do remember McMahon talking once about how he shifted from 60 minutes to roughly 10 to 15 minutes, because he thought that was just the right amount of time for the audience. So it's kind of interesting. You watch matches now, and they're all usually within around 10 minutes or so, 15.
Yeah. In a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
On TV, they're 4.
Right.
Yeah. I get a kick out of this picture. I always do, though, because you look at that, and this is one of the only times I've seen him start the national anthem 100 times, but this is the only one I've seen where he actually makes it the whole way through.
And look at all the trash on the mat from the audience just throwing stuff at these guys.
I know.
I mean, they were actually pelting them with stuff.
They were so. I mean, again, they were so hated because of Iran and Russia that, yeah.
And then we were even talking when they come down the aisle, the audience could touch these guys. That's how close they were.
Yep.
And people were. I saw. I think it was this one. I saw someone bounce something right off one of their heads. It's like, and nobody cared. It's so strange.
No, these guys used to walk down the aisle and like the folks who, if you had a ringside seat, you could, pat them on the shoulder on their way down the ring. I mean, they used to do that. Now, if you do that, they'll yank you out. They'll yank you over the rail and beat you down.
Yeah.
You can't touch them now. But you used to pat them on the shoulder.
I don't think it's
when they were
about
walking
house shows. It's been 5 years since I've been to a house show, but they were always pretty good with people at the house shows and stuff. But yeah, it's just it's changed so much in the last 3 years, frankly. I have no interest in going to see them anymore. I went to tons of them. I went to 10, 15 episodes, 10 to 15 shows between 2001 and 2011.
Dude, when Nitro came to town, they came to Baltimore a lot.
Okay,
we were always at Nitro, and even when they were filming, they were filming extra scenes for like Ready to Rumble. Remember the movie?
Oh yes, I love that movie.
I really do too. I thought it was a great movie, and the one time that Nitro, it was really cool. Nitro came to town, and they actually had they were filming. So they had a pre-show. The pre-show before Nitro were matches for Thunder. So they actually had the Thunder. They actually had the Thunder stuff, the ring stuff behind the Nitro stuff. So before Nitro started, Gene Okerlund came out and he was telling everybody, to kind of fake some enthusiasm and stuff because they're actually filming for the movie. And he was going to give he was going to do a backstage interview with Oliver Pratt. Oliver Pratt was there that night. And
Jimmy King.
Yes, Jimmy the King. And so we got to see that on the Jumbotron, and they filmed our reaction as he was being it. It was so cool. But we were
back in the game. Right on, man.
The Nitro girls, all that stuff. Every Nitro, we were there.
Oh, that's so cool. I would have loved to have seen that because I did love Nitro, and I watched it for the last 5 years. I watched it straight ahead. I never missed it. I used to watch. Oh my God, yeah. And I was so sad when it all went away, because I thought it's going to go downhill. They got to do something.
I don't remember. There was
They destroyed it.
And I can't remember the year, but they had. It was Bash. I think it was Bash at the Beach was in DC, and it was Hogan and Sting in the main event. And then the next night on Nitro, they had a rematch in Baltimore, and we were at that. And it was the worst. It was the worst match ever. Like we were booing. It was it was an absolutely horrible. Neither one of them. It was like neither one of them wanted to even be there. So.
Isn't that kind of the story, though? They got their money and they didn't put the effort in anymore or something? I don't know.
Yeah. And it was the day after the pay-per-view. So, yeah, it was horrible. but we were there. We were there.
I'm not sure what Iron Sheik is hitting him with, but I know it's not Freddie Blassie's cane.
Cane? What cane? I ain't got no cane.
After this match, after Sheik hits Wyndham in the head with his cane, Okerlund asked Freddie Blassie, "Hey, where's your cane?"
Hey, I got no cane.
Oh, Gene Okerlund was so funny.
Freddie Blassie, beautiful friggin' character. Yeah. I like to see. I've never seen any of his wrestling matches. Like, I don't know if there's any video. Well, I'm sure it exists, but I don't think I've ever watched any.
I remember the one. The WWF put like out a song album, so of course you had him doing his Pencil Neck Geek song, which then actually became like a real single. I still have the 45.
Pencil Neck Geek. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome, Mike. You got the 45 of that. That's crazy.
I got the 45 of that.
Oh, gotta love it. Here we go. Big John Studd versus Andre the Giant in the $15,000 slam match. I just realized I'm not even using my banners. I typed all in, Jeff.
Oh, I like how they put 15,000 in this like $5 little bag here. This little chip thing.
They take every individual bill and all ball it all up, stick it in the bag, right?
Why didn't someone bring in a briefcase to make it look cooler? They just stuffed it in a gym bag.
There we go. Big John Studd versus Andre the Giant, $15,000 slam match. We missed all the other ones. Oh, well, that's all right.
Look at Gene Okerlund looking in at the money. Remember he actually reached in and grabbed it, and and Bobby Heenan yelled at him, "Get your hand out of there."
And, of course, Andre didn't do the interview before because he did one after, right?
Yeah, he got interviewed.
Oh. Yeah, I don't remember.
I like how happy Andre was in this coming down. He just had a big smile on his face. Yeah, because he knew there was no way he could not slam John Studd.
Yeah.
That was nothing for him.
And we were talking about this, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago, Jeff, about how they actually ended up passing away. John Studd was 47 and Andre was 46, so they both lasted about the same amount of time. Yeah, it's sad though, really.
I'm surprised Andre the Giant was only 46. For some reason, I just thought he was way older than that, but I guess because he just, he was in so much pain at this point. Even this match, he wasn't moving around very well. You could tell he wasn't doing well.
Yeah. When did he do? But then, I mean, he looked. Not, I mean, of course, it was a movie, but he looked much better in Princess Bride. I mean, he looked like he was.
Yes, he did.
Young and spry, and
well, it was. Princess Bride was between this and was it WrestleMania 3? Is that when he faced Hogan?
Yes,
3 is when he faced Hogan.
Because
it might even though, but after I got to double check. I have to look for that now. But
Andre told the story
after WrestleMania 3.
Princess Bride was 1987.
Oh, when then?
Well, that's weird because Andre had an interview and he said he was filming that movie when he got.
That would make sense. That would make sense because WrestleMania 3 would have been 1987.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It was around April 1st, and the movie Princess Bride was released September 18th, 1987.
Okay.
So he was probably filming at the same time that he was, in the midst of the storyline.
Yeah, because he said McMahon called him. He said, I wanted you to do me a favor. I want you to do one more match. And Andre said, nope, he didn't want to do it. And then McMahon explained the whole thing about how, Hogan was going to beat him. And that was a big deal for the company. So he finally agreed to do it. Yeah. But he did wrestle a little bit afterwards, too. That wasn't his final match.
No. Oh, no. He wrestled more. He wrestled. Remember, we already did WrestleMania 4. He wrestled up through there, and then he went in with Haku, King Tonga or Mang or whatever you want to call him, but Haku, as they won the tag team championships as well.
Just look at this picture. Poor John Studd.
I know.
Yeah, really.
I mean, I know we're not talking necessarily about WrestleMania 3, but I have such vivid memories of the lead up to that too.
Yeah.
That Piper's Pit is like seared in my memory forever.
Andre ripped his shirt.
Ripped his shirt, ripped his chain off, and it kind of cut Hogan a little bit. You saw that little bit of blood on his chest.
He scratched him with his fingernail when he did it. Yeah.
And you could just see, I almost cried. I was
That would be so. That like looking back on it now, you could never recapture the emotion of the moment because it all sort of seems the way it is. So much has changed about the attitude about wrestling, the knowledge about wrestling. We all suspected, like obviously it's staged, but it was faux pas to say it was staged.
No, of course.
It's all reality. So yeah, of course it did. It had emotional effects on people. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Amazing, eh? Part of the reason we loved it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do remember Freddie Blassie managing Hulk Hogan in the WWF when he first came in. He was a big heel.
Yeah, he was a bad guy back then.
Yeah, that was pre-Vince Jr. That was still Vince Sr. in WWF, I think.
Isn't it weird to see
before the nationalization?
Isn't it weird to see Hogan back then when people were booing him? It's so strange to see those old matches.
Yeah. There's one of it might even be, I don't know if it's a WWF or it's an AWA where Hogan is the bad guy and Andre is the good guy, and they fight at Shea Stadium. So this wasn't even, or WrestleMania 3 wasn't even actually their first match. But
I think they wrestled a few times.
You're right.
Yeah, it's sort of hidden, well hidden, and not really talked about or discussed a whole lot. But that happened before. I don't think it was WWF. I think or WWF. I think it was for AWA at Shea Stadium. But anyway, interesting. It's interesting stuff. You'll never know the full history of wrestling because it's not like it's all covered up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's get past this one. And of course, you have to have the big picture of the Slam heard around the world.
Yes.
Yeah. Andre used to get drunk and fall asleep, I think, in the ring quite often. He'd be wrestling like four guys, and he'd fall asleep, and they'd all pile on top, and then he'd wake up and just get up and throw them everywhere. Good old Andre. I didn't know that. Another hold-up was Andre headbutting Lanny Poffo so bad at a Saturday night battle royal that he needed a stretcher. No doubt about it, the man had a 58-pound head. And, of course, Andre's throwing the money in the crowd, and Bobby sneaks up and steals the bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no greater manager turned announcer than Bobby Heenan. There will be no one like him.
No. He was hilarious.
He was.
He was
to hate him.
He was. It was hard to hate.
This is 1985, and he was successful in that role right up into the friggin' late the 90s.
Yep. And then just went right into the broadcast booth and never missed a step.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, some of his nights with Tony Schiavone are classic.
I don't have as much familiarity with those years as I do with Gorilla.
With Gorilla he was great, but with Schiavone was an up and coming announcer.
Yeah.
And he wasn't quite as seasoned, and he tried very hard to play the face announcer, and Heenan was just such a natural heel announcer that he really lifted Schiavone's game.
So this brings us up to the big one we've already talked about: Cyndi Lauper and Wendy Richter versus Lonnie Kai.
This is the third championship match of the night.
Yeah. Now, did you guys watch the Dark Side of the Ring about Moolah?
Yes. I was so confused. I don't know if she was a good person or a bad person.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking too.
Because half the people hated her, and half the people thought she was wonderful.
Yes.
So I don't get it. I mean, all I can figure is if she didn't like you, man, she really hated you.
Yeah.
And if she did like you, she loved you.
Very, very polarized, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was strange. And even when I watch that and I see that stuff, sometimes, usually I'll have a good sense of who I think is telling the truth, but I had no idea watching these people. They all seemed
Agreed.
like they're telling the truth, and maybe they were. Maybe Moolah was kind of one of those people who was extreme with the people she liked and the people she didn't like.
Caper, you're not kidding. It has come so far. I've said it many times that I enjoy the women's wrestling more than anything now. I think they're better at it. They put on better shows, and they're better athletes. I don't know if it's just me or not, but I don't know.
The Fabulous Freebirds were in the WWF at one point?
I don't recall that at all, Lance.
I don't. Yeah.
Why? Because they were in Texas with the Von Erichs and whatever. I can't remember what that was called, but yeah, they were down there for a long time.
I still remember Doc Hendricks coming into the WWF going, who the hell is this guy? And find out later on it's Michael Hayes, the Fabulous Freebirds. I'd never heard of them.
Yeah, because I was little, we used to get on one of our local stations, they would actually play. I can't remember the name of the wrestling show, but it was basically the Von Erichs.
Oh, they had a very here they are. They had a very brief run in the WWF in '84 where they were part of the Rock and Wrestling Connection period.
Okay,
they wrestled under the guidance of Cyndi Lauper's manager David Wolf, but soon left their promotion after an altercation with Andre the Giant, who was upset when the Freebirds arrived late to a show. Then they went to AWA.
So was it Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy?
Garvin.
Terry Gordy was one of them though too, right? And
yeah, it was Hayes. It was originally Hayes and Gordy, and then Buddy Roberts, and then somewhere along the line, Jimmy Garvin.
Can I do this?
Okay. Do you remember they were inducted into the Hall of Fame a couple years ago, WWF Hall of Fame, and I watched it. There was 3 of them that were inducted. So, or actually, I think there was 2 on stage. Plus, they talked about Gordy because Gordy's passed away.
Right,
Does that make
and
sense?
then there was Brad Armstrong too.
Okay, Brad Armstrong, as in Road Dogg's father.
Is that who that was?
He
wrestled under
James is an Armstrong, and his father is Brad Armstrong.
No. This was okay. So no. He's that was Bradley. His real name was Bradley James. So he was Bullet Bob Armstrong's son.
Bob Armstrong is Road Dogg's father, and you're talking about a different Armstrong.
Well, then
Correct?
he must be his brother then, because
Scott Armstrong is the referee.
Brad Armstrong's the son of Bullet Bob Armstrong too.
Oh, okay, then they're brothers. Yes, I'm sorry. Then
Yeah, so he was the brother to the Road Dogs.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, right on.
He wrestled in I can't remember. I think it was WWF. He wrestled as Bad Street. That's probably why you don't recognize the name.
Okay. Hey, Chris, what's going on, buddy? Good to see you, man. Thanks for stopping in. Road Dogg actually just had a heart attack this week. I haven't read a full article on it, but I saw the headline. I should have checked that out. I never thought. But yes, Road Dogg Jesse James. What the hell?
Wow.
But yes, he had a heart attack this week. I saw it on Twitter, I believe. So, and from a few different sources, not just like one off the cuff. I saw it 2 or 3 times. I'll say probably just yesterday, maybe Sunday. But anyway, my understanding is that all was well. He was just a scare, right?
Yeah, another good team, but he was never great by himself.
Oh, but he had the gift of gab.
He did.
Yeah, and that's very important. He could talk, man. He could talk. And that's another one. If you watched, what was the show I told you about the other day, Jeff? We were talking the other day about Randy Orton was just on with Stone Cold Steve Austin. It's called Stone Cold. It's on the network.
With Skull.
Something like that. Anyway, there's one where Road Dogg is on there that's a couple years old. It's a real entertaining because Road Dogg tells a great story. He tells some great stories. But if you get a chance to see that, right on. You didn't know I had a heart attack this week. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. It's okay. I think he's okay, so it's okay to show that. Oh, but man, he could talk. He could talk. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. Okay, so man, we could talk about Dark Side of the Ring and all this other stuff. Moolah really was incredible, and
She was awesome.
I was good. Well, yes, women's wrestling has come a long way, but this is just the way it was back then. They were just brutal.
Moolah was still wrestling at this point.
Sure, she was. She wrestled the next year. She was a champion again a year later.
She wrestled until the mid '90s.
Oh yeah, her and Mae Young.
I think you mean she wrestled him to her mid-90s.
Yeah.
I think she's pushing 80 right here.
Exactly. Yeah, but it's just
even as a little kid, she was old. When I saw her as a little kid, she was ancient, and then she ended up wrestling 20, 30 years more. Like
her and Mae Young were inseparable. Right at the end, they kept them on there. They brought them in all kinds of TV shows, made them tons of money in their 80s. And I probably told you this story before, but I'm going to tell it again anyway because it sort of kind of freaked me out. I can remember I was in about 5 years ago, 6 years. I was into autographs. I get addresses, and I'd send 3 or 4 8x10s away and get them autographed, right, quite often. And I sent some to Mae Young, and I had to go away on a trip. I was gone for 3 weeks for work, and while I was gone, I had sent these pictures away. And while I was gone, about a week after I was there, I had read online, wherever like that, Mae Young had passed away. And then I read the next day, it was sort of like the Tiffany Roberts story. No, she hadn't yet, but then 2 days later she did. So she was very ill anyway. She was in her early 90s. So she was, Anyway, I had sent pictures. When I come home 2 weeks later, these all go to my sister's house. It's in the States, just a couple miles away. I get back, and the date that I had heard she had passed away was, let's say, I'm going to pick a date. I'm going to say, let's say it was January 5th. And then she was okay. And then I heard that she had actually passed away on January 8th. Right. I came back, and it was the letter from her where I sent the Sazy. The signed pictures were there. It wasn't real clear, the signature, but the signed pictures were there, dated January 6th.
Jeez.
Postmarked. So it was just really, really strange. But she was notorious. Mae Young was notorious. She always signed autographs and back to people, and she did shows, and she was just one of these people. And I recognize it because I've seen it over time, like through the websites I've followed, through the different forums I've been on. There's some wrestlers that have just loved their fans, and they do everything for them, and it keeps them in the limelight, right? And Mae Young was definitely one of them. Anyway, by the way, very strange, Jay. Very strange, the whole timing of it all.
I just looked it up, and I knew I'd remember this.
Yeah.
At 74 years old in 1999, she officially became the oldest women's world champion in history.
Wow. And
how many times did she break her own record? I'm sure that wasn't the first time she was the oldest champion.
Yeah.
I was 2 years earlier.
She fought who? The next year she fought Rockin' Robin. Wendy Richter was gone. It wasn't at WrestleMania 2. She fought Rockin' Robin for the belt and won it or something like that. I don't know. Anyway. Yeah. Hey, back from the dead. Right on. Good to see you, man. Thanks for stopping.
Brother back.
Oh. I could flip ahead a picture here. So there they are running to the ring. Of course, this was all the big hype, babe. They really did. They milked. It's all part of the big gamble, right? Bring Cyndi Lauper in, try to go mainstream, get it on MTV, war to settle the score. Let's promote WrestleMania. Mortgage a farm, which is exactly what he did.
Yeah,
see if we can make our money back and make this into a big company, and man, it worked for him. But this wasn't really much of a match either. I mean, women's wrestling, it wasn't much of a match really. And there's the 3 count.
That's because I don't know. I think to me, the first real great woman wrestler and I know this is decades later, but I don't really remember great women wrestlers until Medusa came along.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Agreed,
mean,
100%.
she was strong, but she could wrestle. And I know she had a horrible gimmick where at one point she was doing, where she was wrestling guys, and she had that love match with I think it was Shane Helms or Shane Helms' partner or what have you. But
WCW days, right?
Yeah. But in her early
yeah.
Yeah. But in her early WCW days, when they were actually pushing her as a legitimate female wrestler,
right,
she was a monster. And to me, she was the first one who really combined technique and talent with the, kind of the personality. Moolah had personality. Mae Young had awesome personality. They couldn't wrestle for a lick.
Yeah.
Leilani Kai could kind of wrestle. Wendy Richter couldn't wrestle herself out of a paper bag.
No, she couldn't. No, I agree. Alundra Blaze. Yeah, was that what she was? What was Alundra Blaze?
I didn't know that.
Right?
I didn't know that was Alundra Blaze.
Oh, yeah. That's right. She didn't go back to Michelli or Medusa until back to WCW. It was Alundra Blaze in the WWF. But Bull Nakano those were good matches. Yes, they could wrestle. Bull Nakano came right over from Japan and could wrestle like most of them. Everybody could over there. It seemed they learned how to wrestle. Oh yeah. But I mean, that was the first time you saw real matches. Up to then, friggin' everything was controlled by Moolah. Moolah just dictated who was going to get what shots. So.
Oh, by the way, the best part of that match was at the end when they were running around and Moolah came up on the mat and she tried to get in through the ropes. She tripped, fell flat on her face, got up, fell flat on her face, and then she finally managed to get up. It was hilarious the way she fell twice.
Yeah, I remember.
The crowd was hollering. They were having a great time.
And this really was the era, the beginning. Chyna was great. Sorry. Chyna was like, all of a sudden, what the hell is this person? She was a machine, but we all know that one. That's part of the nepotism too, because Paul Levesque decided he wanted part of the company.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's either here nor there.
But Chyna came after Medusa, though.
Oh, well after Medusa. Yes.
That was kind of and I mean, that was really kind of my point. Is that it's not that women wrestlers didn't get better. I mean, there are some fantastic women wrestlers out there right now. And even some, Gail Kim and Awesome Kong, and there are some insanely good women's wrestlers out there. Yeah. But to me, the first real one that came along was Medusa.
Oh, you are correct. I agree 100%. And, some of the sort of myths going into that too, and I thought she was pretty freaking awesome as well. It all started off with the Macho Madness in WCW, and Medusa became with Randy Savage, and he had Gorgeous George there. But he also he had Gorgeous George and Medusa Michelli and Miss Madness, which was Molly Holly.
Oh, right. Molly Holly.
She started off in WCW before she ever went to the WWF and became Molly Holly. And I'm telling you, Nora Greenwald's her name. And let me tell you, she was a wrestler too. She was talented. She was really skilled in the ring. Much more so than anybody ever gives her credit. I mean, in those days, she was Miss Madness with the sash. She'd wear an evening gown, like right down to her feet, tight dress, and then she'd somehow scamper up to the top rope and do missile drop kicks in an evening gown with the hair on. She was pretty good. She knew what she was doing.
Well, she was in a great wrestling family. That's part of it.
Yeah. Well, you mean with that group that I'm talking about?
Well, not just that. I mean, wasn't she? That was it was like the hardcore Holly and.
Oh, she's not. She wasn't related to any of those guys. That was just her gimmick when she got to the WWF.
What I meant was she was in that stable where they kind of trained together.
Yeah, I really don't know. She came out of the Minnesota area, so I mean, Minnesota is just a hotbed for wrestling. Some of the best wrestlers in history have come out of Minnesota. So whether she come out of Greg Gagne or Vern Gagne's stable, like training or not, I don't know that for sure. But I mean, Minnesota, man, you got wrestlers coming out of there, man.
They're very true.
Yeah. All right. So, and yes, I do remember the Jumping Bomb Angels. They fought, what was it, in a Saturday night's main event or something? Or maybe it was one of the Royal Rumbles where there was only a couple matches and the Royal Rumble. And one of them was the Jumping Bomb Angels versus one of them was like Judy Martin and Leilani Kai. And they had the hair dye blonde, and they were called the Hollywood Blonde. Well, not the Hollywood Blondes, but there's something foolish like that. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, was that their only match? Damn near their only mainstream match in the WWF at the time. But they were right out of Japan, and they could wrestle as well. But that was Leilani Kai as well, and Judy Martin, if I remember correctly. Does that sound right to you, Lance? They were great, man. They knew what they were doing. Anyway, let's get on to the big one. So this is why, all the hype. This man right here. Oh, wrong one. This man right here. He could work the mic, and he could make anybody hate him better than anybody else in the world, as far as I'm concerned. He was an absolute genius heel.
Did you ever see Piper when he was down south with I forgot the name of the show, but Gordon Soley was the announcer.
I remember Gordon Soley.
Roddy Piper was there for a long time, and he'd come out there. He was half the show. He'd come out there and talk.
Was that Georgia Championship Wrestling?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was big down there.
Yeah, but man, you can say what he doesn't have. He's a big, strong man, no doubt about it. He's a tough kid. Wrestled from 15 years old, coming out of friggin' Alberta. Okay. But the gift of gab, you can't teach that. You can't teach the charisma that man had. I'm sorry. You can get somebody in a weight room, and you can get somebody trained on wrestling maneuvers, but you cannot train the gift of gab that this guy had, the natural gift. It was just amazing. So
you hung on every word he said.
Yeah. And Mike, you probably saw. Yeah, I know you saw a lot more of it than I did. But is Piper's Pit the breakthrough that then became this, that led to the Snake Pit, the barber shop, and the this and the that? Was it Piper's Pit that started it all?
It really was, because there wasn't anybody else that hosted their own little segment, and the whole point of Piper's Pit was to hype up this match.
Yeah.
And so when the thing is, though, it went so well over with the crowd that they wanted to, they really wanted to keep it going. And then all of a sudden, then came the barber shop and the Snake Pit, and everybody had that, but it was really supposed to be just as a lead up to this match.
Yeah. Oh, so what was the coconut incident? Was that prior to this match?
When he
smashed a coconut over Jimmy Snuka's face?
Was that before this?
I don't know where it fits in. It might have been after, but it might even. But I just say I'm thinking it may account for why Jimmy Snuka wasn't in the match or in a match, because he was injured. But I'm not sure exactly when it was.
I don't remember.
That's just something interesting, but it's still amazing the things we remember. Here we are. That was 40 years ago or 35 years ago, and we're still talking about it.
I know.
Everybody knows about that coconut incident. You know what I'm talking about? Do you remember what I'm talking about, Jeff?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Cracked over Snuka's head.
And the thing is what I've seen before is they're saying, it's like these guys would act these things out. That wasn't a fake coconut. He smashed a coconut over the side of his head.
Oh, yeah.
And then poor Mr. T, I say poor Mr. T. They used him because they made the promo out of him. And Yeah, he wants to do it. He's making a fortune himself out of it. Of course he is, but he ain't no wrestler.
No.
He's way undersized, and you could tell even when any move he was doing, he was hesitant and nervous. He didn't know what
Jeff
was
and I have gone through this. I don't think it'll be the next one. Okay, this is them all sort of getting hubbub, getting ready. There's a clip that you say he's not a wrestler. He didn't know how to wrestle. I've got a clip of his one wrestling move, and then he does the whole match. Eh? Anyway, first and foremost, of course, this is great. Eh? Billy Martin, Muhammad Ali, Pat Patterson, Pat Patterson just passed away too, didn't he?
Did he?
Yes, like within the last few months.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I think you. Oh wow. I don't.
Yeah. But I mean, there's a lot of famous people that were right there, and don't ask straight. I like Paul Orndorff too, man. I thought he was great.
Oh,
yeah.
Man.
I always liked him.
When he gave Hogan the pile driver on Saturday Night Main Event,
Yes.
and that, oh my god, that was one of those times, man, when you just you were silent when that happened.
Yeah.
Pete, you forgot Liberace.
Yeah, Liberace's not in
He was
here.
the timekeeper, wasn't he?
He was a timekeeper.
Timekeeper
He had
with
a
the
crystal
little
bell.
Yeah.
He was out there dancing with the Rockettes. He looked like he was having the time of his life. He was all smiles.
Muhammad Ali was there too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's in the picture right in the middle.
Right there. Yeah.
Yeah, there he is.
They start going. Oh,
But,
there's the.
Oh wait, Pete, go back one real quick.
Yep. There it is.
Don't forget about this old guy in the right-hand corner with the broom.
Oh yeah, very important right here. That's right, Jeff.
The fans were pelting them with so much stuff, and it actually gets worse than this. But he comes up and he's starting to sweep up, and when he gets all the way over to the left, Paul Orndorff comes over, grabs a broom, and just snaps it over his knee and throws it down. And then this poor old guy's looking around. He doesn't know what to do, so he's like, "Ugh." So he just walked away.
Well, go ahead and wrestle with all the crap in the ring then. Oh my God, that's hilarious. Yes, sir. So here it is. Mr. T's wrestling move of the match.
I'm convinced that he didn't know what to do with him once he got him up because he was just stalling. He was like, I don't think he really knew what to do, so they ended up just dumping him off.
Yeah, he flipped him over his head.
Yeah.
But I mean, the fireman's carry, normally they'll sort of flip him up and off, right? But I think he was a little bit, I mean, doesn't Mr. T look tiny compared to holding on to Piper there?
Oh, yeah. If I had to take, I think, here's my favorite. When they all got in the ring and then Snook over here in the corner just quietly gets up to the top rope. And right before that, he like puts his hands up. He was getting ready to jump, but he didn't know who to jump on. So he just climbed back down.
Well, this time they all separate and he just gets down. But you got you got Muhammad Ali there throwing punches at Roddy Piper, which is hilarious too. Eh?
Look at Orndorff. He's getting ready to flatten Pat Patterson. And Hogan and Mr. T are just standing away from everybody.
Yeah. Well, apparently the whole thing the following year with Piper and Mr. T in the boxing match.
Yes, yeah.
Was if I forgot where I read this, but they like really didn't like each other.
Yeah. That's about it.
I don't think Piper liked him because he wasn't a wrestler, and I don't think he appreciated a non-wrestler just coming in and wrestling
and being in the main event, and him having to I mean, he had to carry Mr. T.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. For sure. Here we go. What's this say? The Lance says Pat Patterson was a late substitute referee. Ali was announced as ref, but his condition was bad, so they moved Ali to floor ref. Okay. I did not realize that. And that goes right back to the statement that Vince McMahon would trust Pat Patterson with anything.
Yep.
Yeah, and did for another 30-some years. Yeah. Yeah. Pat Patterson. What the hell's his real name? Don't know. But if you ever heard him talk, he's got a heavy, thick French accent from Montreal, Quebec.
Pat Patterson?
Pat Patterson's from his real name is I can't think of it. But you've heard him talk. He's got a thick French accent.
Oh, hold on.
And
Pierre Clairbon.
There you go. He's from Montreal area. What's the town? Are you looking at where his hometown is or where he was born?
Montreal, Quebec.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And you're right, he died in December.
Yeah. Yeah, it was sad. I mean, he was in his late 80s too, was he not, Mike? Can you see
79.
that? 79. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's sort of funny. You hear Bret Hart and all those guys tell the stories and stuff like that. Pat Patterson was, he was a homosexual, right? And everybody, there was no problems with it. Everybody was perfect with it. But it was just sort of a different in the backstage area. Don't know why I brought that up, but it just didn't seem to fit at the time with him he was the first Intercontinental Champion, right? They created the belt and they said that he had won it in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil sometime in 1980. And then he brought it back to the States and that's where the Intercontinental Championship started. It was with him. But he was always a faithful right-hand man to Vince McMahon. So,
Did Don Morocco win the championship from him? Because Morocco was an Intercontinental Champion in the early 80s.
Seiji Sakaguchi. No, that was the North American title because he was the North American champion. He was that's what he was before the Intercontinental Championship was built. Like this is when I was. This is like when I was in my like I was like 8 or 9 years old. You're right. Who did he drop the?
I don't remember off the top. There is
Ken Patera. I got it. Ken Patera.
There you go. There is a Coliseum video from the mid 80s called "The History of the Intercontinental Championship." Of course, at the time where it was only relatively few people, not like today, and it's very interesting to watch those if you could find it online somewhere. Same as there was a history of the heavyweight championship out about 1986. At that time, there had only ever been 9 champions, and now there's hundreds, literally. But anyway, the double noggin knocker. Yeah, that was just a beautiful clip. And then, of course, getting towards the very end, you got all leading up. Mr. T intercepts. Who was that? Piper coming in. Orndorff has Hogan and spins him around. Cowboy Bob's 6-year cast.
I completely forgot about that. I was watching that. He wore that thing for, a year or two? It was hilarious.
Oh, he wore it for the 80s. Yeah. He wore it for the 80s.
For the whole 80s.
Yeah.
I was telling Pete, Bob Orton lives in St. Louis.
Oh, really?
That's where he's from. Is not Randy Orton still to this day billed from St. Louis, Missouri?
Yeah, because he grew up here because Bob Orton was from Kansas City because his dad was a wrestler.
Yeah.
But then at some point, Bob Orton moved to St. Louis. I'm not sure why, but yeah, evidently Randy Orton, I guess, was born here. And as far as I know, Bob Orton's still alive and living here.
Well, Cowboy Bob is still. I'm very sure he's still alive. Yeah.
I'd like to run into him one day. That'd be awesome.
That would be something else because, man, he would have some friggin' wrestling stories. Let me tell you, he was a very well respected guy in wrestling as well.
If I'd see him today, I'd say, "Hey, Bob, I'm glad to see you got the cast off."
Yep. And he'd know exactly. It wouldn't be the first time he's heard that, is my guess. He is infamous for that cast. And that's all she wrote right there after the match.
Remember after the match when Orndorff, because he was supposed to be knocked out, and he popped up.
Yeah.
He starts flying around the ring like he's half crazy. He doesn't know what's going on. That was awesome. Because everyone just left him. He was just there with Mr. T and Hulk Hogan and Snuka.
Yeah, and he freaked out. Mr. T kept trying to shake his hand. Hogan kept pulling him back.
Yeah, he did. That was funny.
But right after that, so they used that storyline to go in, and Paul Orndorff became a friend of Hulk Hogan's, and they wrestled as a tag team and were buddies for several months after that, until it accumulated or culminated, is the word I'm looking for, culminated with the big Saturday night's main event that Mike's already spoken about, where Orndorff turned on him, or no, it might not have been the Saturday night main event. They ended up having a huge Saturday night's main event fight. The two of them for the championship, Hogan versus Orndorff. But at one point, Orndorff turned on Hogan and pile drived him, and yeah, it was something else. Yeah, those are they're on the Hulkamania tapes as well, actually.
Is Orndorff still alive?
Orndorff is still alive. He was big with WCW for years as part of their training group. He ran, do you remember what it was called, Mike? They had a special name for their training center. Nope, maybe Mike's gone.
There's a...
No, I don't remember what it's called. Oh, man.
Orndorff ran it for them, for WCW.
Well, there's an interesting interview of Orndorff on YouTube. I assume it's not that old because he's really old in this. You know, he's very small now. Of course, he's
70. He's 71 years old now.
Yeah, so he's in his 70s. It's hard to recognize him at first, but in the interview, he's talking about how he got started and what all the training he had to go through before he even got to the point where he was, doing somewhat well. He said it got down to he was wrestling and he wasn't doing very well, and the promoter told him, "Look, this is your last match because it's just not working out with you." So he decided to go kind of crazy in that last match, and the promoter was like, "Well, that's what I wanted to see." So he signed him up, and that was the start of his career.
That's cool.
He was an interesting guy.
Yes, Lance. Yeah. Power plant. WCW power plant. Yeah, that's it.
Am I crazy or does Lance know everything about everything?
Lance knows everything. No. He's Google capable as well.
But I tell you, man, Orndorff, he won. He had a lot of gold. I mean, he wasn't just this like semi mid card, semi big card, never really went anywhere kind of guy. I mean,
yeah.
When he went over to WCW, I mean, he was their TV champ for a while. He was tag team champ with Paul Roma. Trying to think what else. I know of those. So I mean, he's had some.
Yeah.
He's had some straps.
Agreed. Oh, 100%. He was huge. He is one of the larger names come out. Like, you think about names that it might fall under the radar a little bit, but he had so much success, much more so than a lot of guys you might know. He had more belts than Jake the Snake Roberts. He had more success than, let's say, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Oh, both guys I love, but don't underestimate Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. He was incredible.
He could wrestle too. I mean, he wasn't just a bruiser. He could, he trained as an actual, technical wrestler, and he could go either way if he wanted to. Just
Here we go. Here was the turn. So it was Hogan and Orndorff against Big John Studd and King Kong Bundy. So the week before that, they had teamed up against the Moondogs, and Orndorff was trying to upstage Hogan, right? And
I remember that now. Yes.
And so the next week, they like Hogan and Orndorff. They how it happens sometimes when a feud gets started. Hogan knocked Orndorff off the apron. And then Studd and Bundy were double teaming him. Orndorff was like pretending his eye hurt. And then Orndorff came in at the end of the match to fend off Studd and Bundy. and then helped Hogan up, raised his hand, gave him the clothesline, pile drive him.
Wow. I've seen that, and you've just nailed it. Yeah.
Yep.
And
if I remember correctly, and I might be wrong on this, I thought at one point in time Orndorff even used Hogan's music.
Oh, really?
That would have been awesome.
Real American.
All right, the next one I'm gonna put up is very important. The next clip, the next little title, and yes, I can believe that Piper versus Orndorff. That's how they went after WrestleMania 1. That's how they set that up, right? That would really work well. He barely uses Google. Lance, we're not worthy.
Yeah.
Oh, I believe
it's amazing. The stuff you come up with is just awesome. I love it.
Hats off to you, man.
You're friggin' right.
I believe it because he comes up with some of this stuff really fast.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think of stuff like, as soon as Mike said all this stuff, I can remember watching that in these old films and stuff, but I never would have come up with it right off. So I remember what happened. That's like, and the other one, like all the it was Bundy Stud for Orndorff and Hogan, and then later on Hogan and Macho Man was the Twin Towers, Keem and Big Boss Man, and that's how they do it, right? They set it up for the big turns, right? And yes, Mr. Wonderful used Real American. Well, guys, we've been 2 hours and almost 15 minutes. But man, I can sit there and talk about wrestling all night long. I love it, this old stuff,
Oh, me too.
Yeah. So I think that will be that's about it for tonight. WrestleMania 1. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Jeff and I, and hey, Mike's home. And Mike will be joining us again. If you would like to, will join us again some night for wrestling talk. You'll be up for that?
Whenever I can.
Yeah, awesome. And who knows what we'll look at, and we'll play it by ear and see what's going on. I'm sure we have lots of things we can look at, jump out of the WWF a little bit. Tell you, everybody knows the WWF. I do. But
and nice since since everybody's wearing each other's shirts except for mine, I did not get a far out.
Excellent, Mike.
Right on. You gotta love it. Gotta love it. Right on. Well, hey, thank you guys. Thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. All kinds of different people popped in. And Caper Dave and Lance, I see you both still there. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time, we'll see what I have next Tuesday. I might have a interview with somebody. But watch here on my channel Tuesday nights at 9 o'clock Papa Pete time. That's 8 o'clock Eastern. And we'll go from there. Until then, we'll have something back with wrestling, video games, and retro adventures. 2 weeks from tonight. What's the date on that, Jeff?
What's that?
What's the date on that? 2 weeks from tonight.
I don't know. It's the 30th, right?
Yeah, it's the 30th at first.
So
around the 12th. Around the 12th. We'll be back. Mike, you just froze again. Okay, there you go.
Wait, today's the 30th. So, yeah, it's the 13th. I'll help you guys out. There's a calendar.
It is the 13th?
The 13th.
Cool. I guess I can't say Go Game Gone, can I?
Oh, speaking of Go Game Gone, tomorrow we're doing the big Amico March Madness countdown.
That's right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Don't miss that.
We have 64 Amico games, and we're voting on our most anticipated one. So we'll do matchups, and we'll just keep whittling it down until we get to the final two.
Nice.
So
Chat voting brackets. How are you going to do it?
How are we doing the brackets?
Yeah, chat voting.
Chat voting. Yep.
Right on. That'll be neat. That'll be really neat. I've seen the brackets, and there's going to be some tough friggin' picks in there. Let me tell you.
Big thanks to Pete for doing a lot of heavy lifting on those brackets because some of those games I wasn't sure about, so we had to try to put them in the right areas. And but nice. Yeah, the brackets are going to be tough. The later rounds are really going to be tough.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, that's good. We'll see you guys tomorrow night, or until next week. Sayonara.
See ya.